Hi, friends. This is Wendy Harrop, and welcome to the Say Yes to Yourself podcast. On the Say Yes to Yourself podcast, you'll hear stories from women just like us who are adding the practice of saying yes in their daily lives in big and small ways, and as a result, are experiencing the truth that everybody wins when you say yes to yourself. Saying yes to yourself is a graceful unfolding, an intentional becoming of the very best version of you. It is my hope that in these conversations, we are able to find our truth and be inspired and empowered to live our very best lives. I'm so excited to go on this journey with you, and I look forward to finding a bit of our own story in each other's. Hey friends, welcome back to the podcast, and thank you so much for indulging me in this 3-part series of all things Kenya, all things Elimu Girls. If you've been listening, you know that we shared a conversation with Cindy and Kristi and I as we prepared to go. And then last week was an interview that I did with Cindy from July of 2020, telling her story and how she got involved with Elimu. And now we're just inviting you into our debrief conversation. We've been back from Kenya for a week now. And, I know I speak for all three of us when I say I felt like we were there for a decade and every day was 3 months long, and it was all so good. Just for some background insight into this conversation, our days were really full and really fabulous. I can confidently say that each day was 18 hours long, that we were together in it, living our best lives. And it was completely transformational. For me personally, I've said it wasn't life-changing. Like, I feel like I'm the same person, but it was life elevating. It was life defining. It was definitely a marker in my personal trajectory that I will use to mark time. And I'm so excited that we did it, and I'm so excited to have this conversation. How are you guys?
Doing great. I'm super excited to have this conversation as well. I mean, I feel so connected with both of you. That I really been looking forward to this.
It's so fun.
Yeah.
I miss not spending all day long with you.
I know, it's weird. It's weird. Okay, I'm just gonna say that. I'm like, it's hard. It's hard to not be in those moments together right now. I'm like, where are they? I agree with everything that you said. And for me,
that's why we're friends.
Exactly. I don't always agree with everything you say, and that's why we're actually friends.
You're right.
But I think it was also liberating in many, many ways. And we'll dig into that more as we get into the conversation today. But we talk about self-imposed limitations, old patterns, conditioning, ways of thinking. We get stuck in those because we're in our everyday lives. And even just doing something outside of your comfort zone is pattern breaking. And for me personally, highlighted so many things that maybe I knew to be true or thought might be true or wanted to be true. And I saw them show up in spades. And then that's information that I can bring back to everyday life and then begin an expansion here. And so I think that's liberation, And oftentimes at the end of my podcast, I always do a rapid fire word game, and the last word is always freedom. And one of my guests one time made the distinction between freedom and liberation, and it literally sent chills down my spine, because I was speaking about freedom, and freedom is more like I get to do this. You can't say I can't. I can do whatever I want. And liberation is more of an internal job, where it's like, I'm free to choose. I'm free to decide. I get to be intentional. I am worthy of alignment. So it's semantics, but it's powerful. And
Totally.
so,
yeah. And you're granting yourself permission instead
Mm-hmm.
of responding to an outside force that is either denying your freedom or allowing your freedom. Liberation is something, like you said, it's an inside job. I love that.
Yeah.
So I would love to start with the question. It's a two-part answer. I would love to know what was a takeaway that you have from our time together that's related to the work that we did with Elimu Girls, and what is a takeaway that is more related to you personally? Cindy, will you start, please?
Yes, absolutely. I think the takeaway for me with Elimu Girls this time was that we climbed the mountain together, and there's so many ways to get there. I think often at the very beginning of this journey for me 10 years ago, I have always led with heart-centered leadership. But I think for Elimu Girls, this ability to let go and trust you, Wendy, trust you, Kristi, that I don't have to have all the answers. And that's a little bit of letting go of control with Elimu Girls. And I think that, well, I know that that's huge expansion for Elimu Girls, because we've just invited creativity, processes, so many ways to continue to grow. And it was a light bulb for me that really went off, like, wow, witnessing both of you interact with the staff and interact with the girls, and watch you receive the things that I've received, since day one, walking into that college, is going to be so impactful for Elimu Girls. And I feel like that's the floodgate that kind of opened for Elimu Girls. And then for me personally, back to climbing the mountain, I think since the very beginning of walking into that college 10 years ago, I've always struggled with, being a dual personality and fitting in wherever I can, because I just lack the confidence myself. And so authenticity and really being authentic through this journey. And for me, the personal note of this last experience being authentic was being really aware of old patterns, having both of you tell me, finish my sentence sometimes, look at my expression and say, we got you, for all the things I fear with being alone, in failing, in expansion. And that for me personally, just, I've always known the sisterhood is amazing, right? That's why I do this work I do. But having fun, like we just laughed we were like slumber partying, and yet we were working and sweating and grinding for 18 hours. And this notion of that deep connection amongst us, that withdrawal and deposit that you've mentioned, Wendy, before, of, friendship that's rooted in commitment, honesty, and a vision for always relying on each other authentically. And that you'll grow with me and I'll grow with you guys, and it's okay. We're not going to get it perfect, but better to get it done. So for me personally, that's the growth.
Oh, so beautiful. Thank you. Kristi, how about you?
So one of the big epiphanies I had while we were there with regard to Elimu Girls in particular was this concept of, how do we ignite a care, a passion across the globe for someone that you've never walked in their shoes. You can't imagine what their life is like. There are, horrific things happening in your own backyard. Why would you care? Why would you care? And for me, I already knew an answer to that, but going there, being on the ground, as you always say, Cindy, being in next to the body warmth of another human, really opened the floodgates on that. And particularly, I have a daughter that's around the same age as a lot of the girls that are there. And in my experience, it's like I give her as much possibility as she possibly can have to succeed. And, just by living in this country, we have privilege. And when I met those girls, some of them have really, really horrific backgrounds and challenging, stories and huge challenges in front of them. Their living is basic means, but you are greeted with a level of joy and hope and passion and beauty and just authenticity that's unmatched. And for me, that is the story that needs to be told. And that is what I want to help bring to light, because that's why you care, right? And for me, it was very, very visceral because it was one for one. That girl that I was smiling at, that was hugging me, that was telling me she loved me and didn't even know me, was the same person as my daughter at home. They have the same potential, the same hopes and dreams. And so I saw unbridled potential and a level of vulnerability and hope and dreams that it's like, okay, game on. My role is to help fund this, is to help evangelize this, is to help other people care. Why should you care? I'll tell you why you should care. Like, this is it. And in talking to those girls, it's like they're at a sewing college. And we also talk to boys and people at the resource center and the people who are bringing this to light, the people working there. Everyone is just so warm and beautiful. I mean, it's beautiful. And, but, when you're talking to them, it's like they're learning to sew and they're learning to become seamstresses. And we talk to them about becoming designers, about making choices, about thinking differently, about changing the narrative. And that, I think, is like, you ask each, what do you want to be? What's your dream? I want to be a fashion designer. I want to be a designer. I want to change the world. I want to help other girls who didn't have this experience. It's like so amazing. So, I mean, I could go on forever, and there's many, many takeaways for Elimu too, because there's so much potential to bring artistry, craft, visionary ways of being and seeing to light in a way that everyone across the globe can benefit from. It feels unlimited. It feels unlimited what we can do. And I'm in. Like, I'm in.
Yep.
And I've been talking about it ever since to anybody who wants to listen. And everyone's excited that I talk to. It's not like they're like, oh God, you're going to ask me for money or nothing like that. It's like, how do I get involved? Oh my God, that sounds amazing. That's incredible. And it's like, yes, it's incredible. And you want to be a part of it. I guarantee it. Anyway.
Right. No, it's true. Like, people are, I just went to the dentist yesterday and the hygienist was like, oh my gosh, I've been following your trip. It looks amazing. And I said, oh, good. Cause I had already I had the card ready to give to her. And she said, oh, I'm so glad you brought this because I have a sewing machine. I didn't know, should I donate a sewing machine or is cash better? And so I explained all the things that cash is better and it goes farther. And she's like, oh, good, because the other girls, I've been telling them. So it's like all the people at my dentist are now going to support Elimu because it's this introduction of this beautiful thing that they feel connected to because they're connected to me. And the people that you're talking to, Kristi, and of course, Cindy, you've been doing this for 10 years. And I'm so happy that now you have some help in also spreading the word and the invitation to be involved.
Well, it's like the same happened to me. I went on my daughter's field trip yesterday and I was, we walked to the field trip and the teacher was walking with me. And I just said, oh, she was asking me if I had summer plans. I'm like, I really haven't planned for the kids because I just actually got back from Africa. And she's like, wait, what? You just got back from Africa? I must hear more. And so then I told her about it and we just talked. And then by the time we got to the field trip, she spent the next 2 hours of the field trip just engrossed in hearing about the experience. And then she said, I would really like you to come to my class next year and speak about this. You can be our example of upstanders. And also our class always has a charity that we rally around. And I would really like this to be our charity. And I can get other classrooms in on this too. And, I was like, sure. And I'll even come in and teach your kids to block print. And she's like, oh my God, I was going to ask, but I didn't want to impose. And I was like, oh yeah, because we're going to embody this. We're going to embody it.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not just coming in and saying, hey, there's this thing across the world and you should care. We're going to do a craft together. You're going to understand. And then we're going to move forward. And then I'll show, you're going to see videos. We're going to talk about it where you're going to see humans who are just, putting themselves out there. And so it's like, I didn't go on the field trip to get her to participate in this. I didn't even ask. She asked me. And so it's just like, and this is what we've talked about with fundraising too, right? Fundraising can either be hard, where you're like, please give me money. Oh my God. Okay. I know we went to lunch together.
I'm the most expensive friend you have.
Yeah. Now I'm going to give you the hard sell at the end of lunch or whatever. Or you tell the story, you bring someone along for the ride, and they choose to give the money. There's not even an ask. Yeah. And I know that sounds really messed up in a way. I mean, it sounds beautiful in a way, but kind of like, oh yeah, sure, that doesn't really happen. I'm telling you, I went from someone who didn't know how to fundraise at all to fundraising a lot. And I never had those kinds of asks because it's just storytelling in sharing the experience. Totally. Right. And so I think that's a huge takeaway here too, is like, we've had this experience and now it would be selfish to keep it to ourselves.
Yep.
We must speak freely, openly, and share because people care.
I know.
People care.
I was explaining to my husband last night, Steve, as we went to dinner, and I just said, I see every single person as someone that can connect in some way, shape, or form, because fundamentally people do care. And maybe it's not financially, and maybe it's through, a creative process or whatever that is. But it's when you're inspired deeply and passionate about something that has such a huge on the ground impact. I mean, there's a direct line, like with these kind of, more grassroots efforts. And people really appreciate that because it's not convoluted. It's pretty direct. And I'm very excited by this conversation because I really do see fundraising in a different light. It is about let's just have a conversation. How can we partner? Like, what makes sense for you and for us?
Right.
Mm-hmm. And that's all it is. It's an exchange of energy. It's an exchange of interest. It's an exchange of love. I mean, it sounds super woo-woo to talk about an exchange of money and fundraising in that way, but it's 100% that. It is 100% human interaction, human connection. That's it. And I think even, with talking to this teacher, it's like she was enthralled. Mm. And we were talking about some of the, more serious aspects of, that experience for these girls, and talking about, systemic, patterns of oppression and things, that are culturally happening. And, we were discussing it, and I was like, one of the biggest problems is that, America feels like they have solved everything and everything else is wrong. And then that doesn't invite collaboration. That doesn't invite a possibility to have a different conversation. And so it's in these ways. And I was just talking about, I was talking about it in terms of my daughter, because the teacher reflected back and said, what an amazing thing for your daughter to be watching you do this. Mm-hmm. And I had sort of thought about that, but not really deeply. And she was like, she's watching you make change. Mm-hmm. And then we were talking about how slow it is to change systemic programming, right? And how, I was just talking about like the head mistress or madam of the sewing college, and how she has to be very diplomatic going into villages to sort of help these girls find their way to the college without like pissing off the village and making them think that she's judging. And I was like, her work is very nuanced and very delicate. And she is walking a fine line of saving a girl. She's like a velvet hammer. She's like, I come in and I save the girl and you don't even know what happened. Like,
there's times where she can't help.
Sometimes she can't help, and she knows it, and she has to,
painful, right? Because that's also, you have to let go of certain things too when you do this kind of work, in the sense of, having the guardrails, respecting also that there's a family unit and you can share. And I know, a few particular instances with Lucy where she's been heartbroken and has gone back several times to a family and trying to help, and it's just, sometimes it doesn't happen, but it doesn't stop her from doing the work, not one iota.
No. And she has to be careful, because if she crosses certain lines, then they won't even let her back in that village or with that tribe. And then she's cut, the ties are cut altogether. And so it's super delicate work. But this teacher then reflected back, which is so beautiful. She's like, you're a disruptor. And I was like, oh my God.
Yes, I am.
Yes, I am. And she's like, and you're a change maker. And she's like, and like, that takes time. That takes time. She's like, in any, she teaches history. So then she goes down in any, anything in history when things had to change, like that was decades, that was that. But people still did their part. They still took the steps. They may not see that change in their lifetime, but that change starts the ball for the next one and the next one. And it was just such a rich conversation of someone who didn't have any interaction with this experience at all, but was like 100% in it, dropped in. It's beautiful. It was beautiful.
It's totally true. When you open up the floodgates of what happened, as each of us share, it's like the resonance when you start going with someone, and the connection and just the dialogue. It's like, yo, gosh, I didn't even know anything about you except for you drove a red car dropping off your kids. And then all of a sudden it's just this deep place of like, we got to go get coffee. We need to talk a little bit more. Let's go have lunch. So we all at a deep level yearn for purpose and possibility
and human connection.
Right. And to feel like you're making a difference. Impact. You want to have impact. There has to be more than this.
Yeah.
Right. And there's so much more.
Well, legacy building, right? I mean, legacy building, and not from the standpoint of, oh, look at all the things you did, but legacy building in the sense that, I had a friend that recently passed away, Cisco. And I mean, Cisco had the most successful, Los Angeles based, sustainable furniture company, across the world. really, he sold across the world. And there were so many people that spoke at his funeral. And honestly, there was no mention of him no mention of his monies. All the mentions were about connection, inspiration. I mean, his legacy was so much bigger than the success measured by what most people say is successful, a certain money metric. And this is just not that. And so maybe so many people can resonate with purpose and this deep conversation with like, let's go, we got to connect further on this, because you just let go and you can instill change and be a world changer and all those things.
Well, it's amazing because I'm not one for small talk. I don't like small talk. I think it's boring and waste of time. Like, I like to get real really quickly. I like to, like, when somebody asks me, how are you doing? They're going to find out how I'm really doing. Like, I'm not going to be like, oh, it's great. I'll be like, oh, well, here are the 17 things that really went wrong today. And here's one highlight. Okay. You want to talk about this? Okay. And I think that that's actually sort of a superpower, because it sets people off kilter just enough where they get kind of real, and then they walk away and they go, oh my God, I want to talk to you more. That was amazing. I feel so light. I feel lit up. And it's like, yeah, let's be real. Let's talk about some good stuff. Like, and so it's like, this is another level of that. Right.
Like,
and
unzip people. The first minute is just an unzipping process.
Yeah. I'm like,
and now let's talk.
You're like, how open are you? Let's see. Here's my zinger. Let's get it going, But, it's been, I think the work is, like you said, it was fun. It feels aligned. It's engaging. And it's just sort of unfolding. I mean, I'm not going to say without effort, because we're putting an immense amount of effort into it, but it's unfolding with this level of ease that is like, oh, okay, that's the next step. Oh, crap, that's a scary, scary next step. Should I? Shouldn't I? Holy crap, what do I do? But it's there, and you're like, oh, okay, I get to be in choice. Right? It's not like I'm sitting here going, oh my God, in order for this next thing to happen, I have to do this, this, and this. You're like, oh, here is the platter of possibility in front of me. Which one am I choosing? And how far is it going to push me out of my comfort zone? And I have the safety net to allow me to walk in that space.
And you're going to the village of abundance, right? Like,
yeah.
We're all sort of rowing there together. And so it is a different space that I'm relearning in my life too, to not have to be so focused on the how. And it still scares me. It does.
I'm so proud of you.
Right?
It's been a really long time, because you always say to me, how can you even say the how is not your responsibility? That's ridiculous. That doesn't mean anything.
It's recorded now. Darn it.
I know.
No,
I know. Cindy and I are always resonating in that, like, 1 foot in and 1 foot out scenario where you're like, oh, that sounds pretty good, but how? Come on, really, how?
Masculine and feminine discussion that we've had about, like, it's not because we don't need to at some point, tackle the hows. It's really just about it being more in flow and recognizing that, like, I can't, the space of always being masculine and figuring every step out, that's for the birds now.
Right. Yeah. Good job. Kristi, what is your takeaway that is for you personally?
Oh man, how much time do you have? Because ready? Are you ready to launch in? Okay, this is not going to be small talk. Yeah. Okay. Well, there's a ton, but I think the one I want to start with is I found some validation internally on my worthiness. And I think, I don't know how to exactly put this, but it's like, I've spent a long time making a lot of stuff, trying a lot of stuff, bouncing around on different things that interest me, trying to figure out what the next step is. And along the way, people were like, oh my God, you're really good at that. You should do that. Oh, you should do that. You should do that. And I'm not trying to like be like, oh, I'm really good at everything, but I've gotten a lot of validation
really
saying I'm good
at
at a
all
lot
of
of things.
Yeah.
And so then it becomes unclear what you're actually really good at, because you hear it so often that you're good at so many things that you're like, I don't know which thing to do. And maybe everyone is just blowing smoke up my butt, right? And maybe I'm not that good at anything. But I think I am. And I think for me, there was an unlock leading up to the trip, because there was a moment when Cindy handed off the creative workshops to me, basically to own and run. And that was sort of like oh my God, can I do this? And if I do this, I kind of have to do this the way I do it. And that there might be friction there, because may not be the way she would do it, or other people would do it, or whatever. And so I had to drop into something that was bigger than me to get in that space. And once I did, it was so aligned, and the stuff just like was flowing, and I was creating, and I went back to printmaking, block printing, which I did in college. And like, it was just, I told you guys, it was like, it wasn't me. It was like flowing through me, right? It was just flowing. You're like, how did you make that? I'm like, I don't know. It's happened. So anyway, that was a big personal takeaway of that validation. But then what was bigger than that, and this is what I've told so many people since I got back, I went on the trip 100% fully in service. That was my plan. I was just like, I'm fully in service to the cause. I'm fully in service to both of you. I'm fully in service to the girls. I am there to be used, like just whatever you need, right? And it was in such alignment. But I was so filled up when I was there. Like, there was so much validation that I'm valuable, that I'm talented, that I'm creative. I mean, all these things in a way that people were like, no, we need you. You are an asset. And that word is powerful, because I'm kind of like, oh yeah, I can design that for you. Okay, I can make that or whatever. But it was like, no, you're an asset.
You make it.
And so for me, I really received that. And like you guys know, since I've been back, I've been like, just like, I'm clear, I'm focused, I'm straightforward, I'm cleaning house. I'm like, either you're in it with me or you're out. Like, I don't have time to waste any longer. And so for me, it was like, oh my God, what am I waiting for? What am I waiting for? And that's been a huge unlock. And it's like, God, if I could teach an art class in another continent, in another language, why am I not teaching that class in English right here to all ages? What is wrong? What is wrong? So it's just, and I know that just seems like, oh God, Kristi, of course, but it's like,
we've been telling you that for years, and you finally heard it, and I'm so happy.
But it was like, it was really deeply meaningful in a way that was like, not just like, I can do this, but almost like, you must do this. This is needed.
It's
important.
It's a disservice for you not to use your gift.
I mean, that's it's just to change someone's life.
Yeah.
Because of God's gifts to you.
Right.
Is
powerful.
It's powerful.
Yeah. And I'll tell you, I'll just recount one experience there that definitely changed me, touched me, whatever. So I taught the class. The girls learned to block print. They were so proud of the bags that they block print that they wore them around their necks like jewels, like necklaces, and they danced around. So that was the first thing. I was like, whoa, okay. I think I'm gonna like crawl into a ball in the corner because I think I have like checked something off my bucket list that I didn't even know was on my bucket list. And it is blowing my mind. But then where it went up a notch, 2 experiences from there. One was a few days later, we were back at their school, and we were, you guys, I'm telling the story like you weren't there, but I'm telling it for whoever's listening.
Like I'm relearning it.
We were supposed to, they were going to do like a concert. They were singing and we were videotaping, and it was sunny. And then all of a sudden it poured rain and everyone took off running, and they went under like just this tiny little overhang where there's just enough room for maybe 2 girls to stand all the way around. And we climbed up there and they started singing and dancing and so joyful. And I was standing next to one of them, and she was dancing, and she had a very specific dance that she was doing. And she taught it to me. And I was trying hard because I'm not exactly, I was like trying to figure out the choreography. And then she looked at me and she said, and she doesn't speak full English, right? So she said, "You teach me, I teach you." And I was like, okay, Lord, strike me down right now, because what? Of course. And I thought, and I was like, oh my God, that's like, that is it. That is it. And I went there to help, and I came back with more than I even gave. Right. And that was so important. And then the other thing I was going to recount is that, Cindy, you brought like a shirt that said, "Actually, I can." And that became our mantra for the girls. Actually, I can. Actually, I can. And they really embraced it. And then one night we were cooking with them. They were teaching us how to make chapati. And it was like the dough, they pour in boiling hot water, and the dough is so hot. You're like, I cannot touch this.
That's
oh my
oil,
God. And you're trying.
It's oil.
Oh my God. It was so hot. Right. But they've been doing it since they were little. So like their hands are just used to it. But I was like, oh my God, I can't. And then I'm like, oh my God, I can't. And this other girl who doesn't really speak English looked at me with the cutest grin on her face. And she said, "Actually, I can." And I was like, oh my God, actually, I can. And then I was just like, actually, I can. Actually, if you can, I can. And then I thought, will burn my hands off in this dough. I will be damned if I take my hands out of this dough. Because I was like, I am showing you.
It burn your hand.
Well, it didn't burn it, but they were red. They were really red. But I thought, everyone's getting it.
Right.
The exchange is here. The energy is here. The give and take. You teach me, I teach you. We are in a dance. This is not me coming and imparting knowledge to you. This is a relationship. This is a cycle, right? It's reciprocal. And that was, so anyway, it was incredible.
And that's, those were a couple of the stories that I have been reliving. It's that the vibrational match, it was an even exchange. It was unbelievable. And like I said, so transformative. For me, the takeaway that was related to the work with the girls was this idea and actual concept of sisterhood. I have a foster sister, but she came to live with us when she was 15 and was only there for a couple of years. So I don't want to say I don't have a sister, because she might be listening, but I have not lived life with a sister. And Cindy, you have 3 sisters or 4 sisters? 3 sisters. And Kristi, you have a sister. I don't have a sister. And Amelia is an only child. So I've not even witnessed sisterhood for any length of time. And I felt that between the 3 of us. I loved just spending, they were 18-hour days awake, but I shared a room with you. So 24 hours for 12 days.
We're spooning, tell the truth. Every morning.
And nobody got mad, and nobody was like, we all had our moments, but they were moments we were having with ourselves, not with each other.
Mm-hmm.
And we were able to be there for each other in those moments as well, which was just legit and beautiful. And to witness the sisterhood that those girls experience, living together, 46 young girls living together and sharing the duties of their day-to-day, cooking, cleaning, learning the skill, doing their studies. They are spending so much time in the Bible, and the Bible Lucy is teaching them these gorgeous truths from God's word, and that is informing so much of their English. So when the words that they choose to speak to us are so profound and poetic, because they are in fact divine. And it was so beautiful. I loved that we were with the girls so many times during our 7 days in Malindi. Or 8 days in Malindi. I loved that there was repetition, that there was some camaraderie, and just to watch them grow in familiarity with us, and for them to laugh at that I'm not a good dancer, and that they can laugh at me, and then they can tell me that they're laughing at me. And there wasn't any hierarchy, like we're supposed to, everything you say is magic and everything you do is perfect. Like, it wasn't that. It was so authentic and joy-filled and beautiful. And to watch them grow in confidence, in just, back to the outfit, the shirt that said, "Actually, I can." We were, just for my listeners, we were filming some content for social media posts and different campaigns that we're working on in the coming months. And so this beautiful, beautiful girl, Meredith, was wearing the beautiful outfit, and she was saying, "Actually, I can." And she was giggling a little bit because, I'm filming her. She's practicing her English. She's wearing an outfit she doesn't normally wear. And just, we talk all the time about how mastery comes from repetition. And she just said it so many times. And the final time, the power and the confidence and the knowing in her voice was such a freaking mic drop that she just, "Actually, I can." The cadence of what she said, it was like, "Oh, I am undone, woman. She believed it.
Mm-hmm.
And it was such a gift to witness that, because as you said, Kristi, like later that night, we're making the chapati. Again, we taught them stuff. They taught us stuff. I'm in the kitchen all the time. They were not impressed with my rolling skills. I would just say, "Oh, how is this?" And they'd say, "No, it needs to be round." So I got better with lots of repetition, but it was really beautiful, because we could say this back and forth to each other. "Actually, I can." And "Actually, I can." And it was such a beautiful, beautiful thing that as they reflect on our visit, and as we reflect on our visit, that's a mantra we all can hold on to.
Mhm.
It's just rich and simple and accurate. And as much as I believe that it's true for her, I believe that it's true for me. And I believe it's true for us and the beautiful ideas and collaborations that have come as a part of this trip. It's just, for anyone that knew me before I went on this trip, we have a reintroduction, and I'm really happy for whoever meets me going forward, because I am a woman who desires to be known, and I also have things to say and share and invite people into that are good, restorative, transformative things. And we're going places.
Mhm.
I
I'm sorry, no, please go ahead.
I was just going to speak, add to the camaraderie piece that you're talking about, and how the evolution from, your first encounter meeting her and what that looked like, just for your audience. It's like, it starts really with this high energy singing and dancing, and let's invite you into, what's their sort of daily practice that binds them together, and they just invite you, like, let's bond together, and it's sweaty and hot, and you're moving, and it's like a mosh pit a bit, it's so awesome. It's hard to describe. And then you sort of move through the week, and I think as we move through these different interactions with teenagers, it's highs and lows, and you're constantly surfing. And I think it's such a testament to both of you guys, because talking about, like, no hierarchy, rolling up your sleeves, sitting on the floor with them, getting uncomfortable. Like, there's such a space of, like, yep, I'm with you. I'm in this. Like, you may not be happy I'm sitting right next to you right now,
but I'm not leaving.
Yeah, I'm not leaving until you learn this thing. Like, we're going to work together. And then that to, like, let me, like, as they're literally coating, like, brushing your hair, because they don't know, like, they want to express so much physical love to you. And it's I think camaraderie and sisterhood and all these things don't quite capture the essence of being there.
Right.
Yeah, that makes me, I just want to add one more thing on the tail of that. So I'm not, in the past, I haven't been, okay. Aren't you proud of me? Aren't you proud of me? I just
So
did
proud
that.
of you.
I just did that, Wendy. In
Good
the
job.
past, I have not been one for public displays of affection. It's actually quite a family joke. I don't hold hands in public. I don't never, I no PDA, when people are, like, making out in public, I'm like, why? What? That's not for them. That's for show, for other people. Like, why? That's ridiculous, right? Okay. So anyway, just to give you a little context. And then, not for too much TMI, but, like, I've been a little bit of a germaphobe. So, like, bodily fluids are kind of disgusting, right? And, like, so, but you go there and it's hot and it's humid and everybody is wet. Okay. You're just drenched in sweat. And hugging is a thing, right? It's a big part of the experience. So for me to talk, I just want to talk about a personal liberation. Maybe there wasn't a moment. There might have been a moment at the beginning where I was like, so this is what we're doing.
Well, the handshake,
handshake
is a hug.
Yeah, so you welcome handshake, and then you pull to one side and then pull to the other, your hands going on the sweaty back and your face is rubbing a sweaty face. Like, there are 3 or 4 parts of your body that are swapping sweat, right? And,
as an introduction.
And, you're, like, in a foreign country, you're trying not to get sick. There's still COVID around. You're not sure. Like, there's all these things that could just flood into your mind, like, whoa, this is intimate really fast. And the thing is that all just fell away almost immediately, which is like, I'm 46 years old, you guys. For that to fall away immediately is like something miraculous.
Yep.
And there wasn't a moment from that moment on. And that started at the airport as we came out. And the first person who took our luggage was the interaction. And it didn't even bother me one bit from that moment on. And that is heart opening. That is vulnerability. That is something otherworldly that just happened. And I'm transformed now. Like, I'm not going around like hugging everybody, strangers on the street, but I am inviting more of that connection, that body warmth, that sort of feeling, right? And to me, it was just like body smells were there, sweat was there, like, and there was nothing about it that you're like, gross. It was just like, it was awesome. I don't even know how to say the right words because this is the people are going to be like, ooh, that sounds disgusting. It wasn't. It was beautiful.
Yep.
It was beautiful.
It was.
And
I think it's, back to that, the vibrational match, like the energy exchange was the same.
Yeah.
And so it normalized so many things that were new and unfamiliar to us, that we were in a foreign land and I belonged there. That trip, I will be back. I mean, the certainty of the return, there's no question. And I'm so thrilled that that we're coming back and going back and inviting people to come with us. Like, that's amazing. A part of my personal takeaway for me, I found out some things that I really like. I like someone to drive me around. I like to do really impactful, meaningful work that takes all day long, and then enjoy a beautiful meal that I did not prepare or clean up after, and sleep in a beautiful bed, in a beautiful room, at a beautiful resort, and do amazing things that are life-giving and income generating for the people I'm doing them for. And then the next day I go on a safari. And I don't feel badly about that. I don't feel weird about that. I would, in fact, like to normalize doing philanthropic work in a way that actually is life-giving to everybody. It feeds my soul. It's desirable for me to have this experience, and the work is good. And, so looking at these beautiful properties that we looked at with the idea of bringing women to Nairobi, to Malindi, for these beautiful experiences that are incorporating fashion and art and change makers and disruption and creativity and beauty and health and wellness and philanthropy and meeting the girls and teaching them a skill and being connected. We made these videos for the donors that I was filming. Cindy, she was telling the girls about the donor, and the girl had practiced a beautiful segment in English saying thank you to the donor and commenting about something specific to that person's family, their new dog, or starting school, or something really fun and personal, which was so lovely. And filming the girl that Amelia and I sponsor, like, we belong to her, and to see her thanking me, I'm filming her thank me. She doesn't know it's me. The picture has straight hair, and was far from straight in that humid place. And then Cindy had me sit down with her and show her the picture book of Amelia and I, and she looked at it, and then I looked at her and I pointed that it was me. And then she just hugged me and was saying thank you, but not, it was totally the different thank you. The thank you for the camera was beautiful and authentic, and they were the words that were practiced. But the thank you that you get from the person that knows what happened before and what is possible now, that was priceless. And to give women an opportunity to sit in that chair and say, that the girl is saying thank you, and I can't even hear her because I'm saying thank you louder.
There's two things that pop in my mind at that moment. One of them, what a beautiful way to articulate that, Wendy. Thank you. And just, I always say these two expressions about your soul being cracked open when you go and you sit in the body warmth of the Elimu Girls. And the second thing is that I always say the day I walked into that college was the day I met myself. And that is loaded with, like, there's so many levels of development in our lives, right? We're constantly evolving. And I see that both of those statements are really applicable for both of you guys on so many levels. It's not even like you needed to be found, but it's just, there's this space of like a new you, this, like you said, you wanted to be louder in expressing connection and gratitude.
100%. And it's like, I've always known as I've been developing my business that I'm about elevating women's voices, that my drive is to be a lighthouse to help call women back to their true selves and help them figure out how to articulate that out into the world, right? And going there, in retrospect, it's like, how did you not know? But going there, I didn't realize the impact of that was just an extension of what I'm already trying to do. But it's so deeply meaningful, right? Everyone's voice is so important, regardless of circumstance, and regardless of where you were born or what you've gone through, right? Yeah. Our voices are so important. And it's, anyone who can help elevate someone else's voice, do it. Do it.
Like, lose the noise. It's just an articulation in the word choice, divine words, warm hugs, sweaty hugs, like all of it is so laser focused in, like, let's connect, like this means something right now. We're going to make this count. And that's pretty powerful, to live your life with such clarity, such a laser focus of change, impact, love. And
I have to say, that meeting the girls was incredibly impactful. We've recounted those stories, but I cannot discount meeting the people working at Elimu Resource Center and Elimu Girls. Sure. Everyone there, it was love.
Yeah.
We were immediately family, and it was incredible. And then meeting the girls each time, the first time, the second time, going back for this small little hour that we get with them, or this or that. I've never in my entire life had someone stand right in my face and with true intention and love say, I love you. It was otherworldly. I mean, it was like, holy, what is happening, And she meant it. And then each time we would all, say our goodbyes, or, we did a lot of sharing back and forth, stories, what drives us, what our hopes and dreams are. Like, we really wanted to learn about each other while we were there. And each time any girl who spoke up, she would talk about something, but she would always either begin it or end it with, thank you for being here. Welcome here. Thank your families for sacrificing, for coming. Well wishes for a safe trip home. Please bless your family with abundance. Like, it was like outpouring of love for other humans they had never met, and understanding that it was a big deal and that we cared about them. Mm-hmm. And it's like, you go on these things and you think you're giving. And I'm telling you, man, what I brought back is, I couldn't even give that much if I worked and tried. It's so different. It's so meaningful and impactful. And so, I want to say, Cindy, from like such gratitude for the work that you do, for creating this and for offering the opportunity, because it really changed my life in a meaningful way. I see myself differently, actually. I see myself differently. And I know that this work is really powerful, and I want to go back. And those songs, I sing them. I sing them constantly. My family's like, oh my God, like, stop singing. And I'm like, you better learn this song, because I'm singing it every day. I can't, and actually the song, one of the lyrics is like, it's okay, it's okay, it's okay.
Yeah.
And I find myself, no worries, no sorrows, in the land of paradise, where there's no surprise. It's okay, it's okay, it's okay. And I find myself, when I'm up against something challenging, that refrain, it's okay, it's okay, it's okay, is playing in my head. Like, it's you're right. We're marking time from pre-Kenya, post-Kenya, pre-Kenya, post-Kenya.
That's right.
So,
yes.
I think, thank you. I really mean that. Like, thank you for creating the space for that. And I think where we're coming together is really, really powerful, and has so much potential to just breathe so much life into this. And I'm really excited. I'm really excited about all of it. So.
Yes. Thank you so much, my queens. This has been so beautiful. Thank you for sharing your experience.
We've only just begun.
Yeah.
That's the truth. But for this conversation, thank you so much. You're treasures, and I adore you with every ounce of my being. And I'm so honored to be on this journey with you. Thank you.
Yes.
I hope you enjoyed that conversation as much as I did. As always, any links or notes mentioned can be found at phineaswrighthouse.com in the podcast section of our site, or in the show notes below. And if you haven't connected with me personally, come find me on Instagram at Phineas Wrighthouse and let me know you listened to this episode. I'd love to get to know you. Thank you for sharing this time with me. I know your days are full, and I'm really grateful that you chose to spend some of your precious time right here. Be sure to subscribe to the podcast so you don't miss any of these delightful conversations. I'll see you next week.